Okay, and we're on. So first things first, thanks for taking a bit of time out your day and having a little chat with us. Hope things are well. I'll normally say how's prep for whatever comp is coming up, but I'm going to say how's prep for Christmas this time instead.
Do you know what? I am on top. I am on top of
Yeah.
Christmas. I'm all over it. It's
Yeah.
done.
You're always on top of it, or you normally a bit messy with it.
No, I'm usually pretty last minute to be honest, but I have taken a bit of a step back from training the last few months, which has given me a great opportunity to not be sloppy with Christmas. So yeah, not sloppy this year. I'm on top.
Happy days. Well, normally what I do is take like guests back to before Strongman and start from there, and then find out a
Yeah.
little bit about what you did before Strongman, and then how you got into the sport.
So it's a long one. So I started off, I think, as most women do, just training for the purposes of looking better. Really. After I had my daughter, I was quite young. I was 21 when I had my little girl, and within about 6 months, because I did train a little bit before having her, and then I completely stopped everything when I was pregnant. I wasn't one of these really motivated pregnant people. I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing. And then after I had her, about 6 months later, I just started training again, but more so because my mum said that she would to get me out of the house. Sort of, she would babysit so that I could get out of the house as long as I was exercising or doing something sort of productive. So I just started exercising to get me away for an hour a day, to be honest, from motherhood, which is a great time, but tiring, very tiring times. So I was sort of doing like circuit classes and that sort of thing, and then ended up doing a like a scaled CrossFit competition, just to give me something to train for. Smashed it, did really well. Decided, right, I'm a CrossFitter now. I've got my identity. This is me. And then I spent probably the next 3 years competing in CrossFit, absolutely loving it. But it turns out that I'm just probably not quite skilled enough to take it to RX level, which sounds like an excuse, but just the things like handstand walking, and some of the complex calisthenic type stuff, the muscle ups, just linking it all together. I was just slow to learn, and I think most people are guilty of this. But when I'm not uh, incredible at something immediately, I begin to lose interest. So I was guilty of doing what I hate that a lot of people do in strongman. Sort of, I was cherry picking competitions in CrossFit where I knew that the events would suit me better, and where I knew that I wouldn't be expected to do any of that complicated stuff. And then I did get a coach. I got a coach, and I was determined to sort of try and make it to at least a national level in comps. And I did my first RX CrossFit comp with like everything included, and I think I came 26th out of 30. And I was absolutely devastated. Needless to say, I was devastated because I really thought I've spent 4 years now. I've spent 4 years scraping to this level, and like there's years more work until I get to just to be competitive at this stage. Like so far away. So I was backing away from CrossFit. I was doing just some bodybuilding type training. I was just training without any purpose really. And at this time I'd got a job at Old School Gyms, which is like a bodybuilding gym close to us, but it's got like it's a great gym to be fair. It's got at the time it had an entire straw of strongman. So all that stuff was there, and I was interested in it. And I was interested. I just found that the strongman community who used to train there was so much sounder and just nicer to get on with than what a lot of the bodybuilders were. And I just found myself engaging with those people more socially. And then what happened? So one of them. I was doing a competition. I was doing a lifting competition at a local CrossFit gym, but it wasn't really CrossFit lifts. It was a max deadlift, a max bench, a max clean, and a 3 rep max front squat. It was just 4 unusual lifts. And I convinced a couple of the strongmen to do that competition, and they said that I would do a novice strongwoman comp. So they did the comp, and I signed up to my first comp, which was it was at Chaos. It was just a novice, first time as a novice women's comp at Chaos, and I did the novice. I wanted to do the first timers, but I did the novice. I did the right thing, and I went to that comp with I hadn't trained any of the events, but I'd sort of looked at the events, I'd looked at the numbers and thought, yeah, I'll piss that, I'll be fine with that, I don't need to train for that. And in fairness, on the static, it was a log, I think it was a 37.5 kilo log, and I think it was 100 kilo deadlift for reps. And at that time, because I'd done CrossFit, I'd never used straps or anything like that, so I had no intention of doing any of that on the day. I think I won the deadlift event. I think I got 17 reps with 100, which I thought, wow, I am strong. And then the log press, I can remember I got there and one of the guys said to me, can you just Viper that? And I was like, I don't know what that word means. It's like, just sort of just throw it in the air with your hips. I was like, well, I'll have a go. And then I got like 25 Vipers with that log in 60 seconds. So I didn't do as well on the moving events. I think it was 45 in hand farmers and a sandbag carry for distance. And I'd not practiced it, and I can remember doing it, the sandbag carry, and I was just walking at my normal pace, and then the timer went, and I thought I could just carry on going. Why did I not just go a little bit quicker? But yeah, so I came second in my first novice comp, and I can remember just thinking, imagine if I'd actually trained for that. And I'd been trying to do higher level CrossFit comps for so long and just placing so low. I just thought, I can get immediate gratification. If I just do this sport and actually train it, I could get some nice immediate gratification here.
I remember, sorry to interrupt you there then, you've just sparked like a memory. I remember watching a strongman comp at Chaos and seeing a girl walk with a sandbag and thinking, why is she not running?
Yeah.
That must have been...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It possibly it could have been me, but it could just have been that she just...
I think it was.
I just thought, well, I'm great. Well, I'm great, so I don't even need to try. I'm just gonna... Because I'd seen a couple of the girls had gone up after 30 seconds, had sort of dropped the bag after 30 seconds, and I thought, well, I can definitely go for the whole minute. But because of that, I didn't even... I just walked, like it wasn't even a brisk walk, Joe. I was just plodding along. But yeah, I sort of just thought... I did that one comp, and then it pissed me off that I didn't win it. I had no right to win it, but it pissed me off that I didn't win it, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually this might be my thing. So I signed up for an Inters, which was Manchester's strongest SSC. Is it SSC in Manchester? So I signed up for that there. I gave it a proper 6-month prep, which now, thinking about it, is wild, because I didn't do a 6-month prep for Europe's. I prepped hard for that Inters, and I won that, and then I just thought, you know what, I think that this is my thing. So yeah, I did the one novice, the one Inters, and then everyone was just telling me to sign up for national qualifiers, so I did the Midlands qualifier, which was at Rhino's gym, and I came second in that. But I was okay with that because I recognised that it was like a decent level competition and the girls were quite serious. And Becky, I think she's called Becky Noon, won that. She's been to Worlds. But I was okay with being beat by Becky, but I just thought, right, when you get to nationals now, like there's going to be a few Becky Noons there. So I sort of went into my first England's probably 8 months into the sport, fully expecting and okay with getting beat. And then I won it. which is obviously phenomenal. And I won a national title immediately in the sport, but also is a bit of a shame because like after that I felt compelled, like I had to do these really big comps, and I just didn't actually have that much experience in the sport at all really. I'd done two comps and then straight on to England's, and I think it's fair to say that the year that I won it, I didn't know this on the lead up, but there was a lot. It was the last year that it was 100% CA, and a lot of the big names were having nothing to do with that pathway anymore. So I was unaware, but a lot of the people I was expecting to be there on the day weren't actually there. A lot of the bigger names, so I did have an easier time in winning the title. There were some really good girls there, but not any of the ones that I'd been terrified of, if that makes
Is
sense.
that the one that was that at Manchester Fit
Um,
Expo?
Fit Expo, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I remember it. Yeah, yeah.
But I was a bit disheartened. Obviously, I won it, but I almost felt like I couldn't sort of put it in my bio, or because just a lot of the girls who have got that title weren't there. I know you can only beat who turns up,
Yeah,
so like
yeah.
it's hard, isn't it? But I just sort of felt like I couldn't claim that as a national title when, even though it was one. And then the Brits after that, which was also 100% CA, I won that, but there was only four girls in my weight class, so it's like,
I
do I
find it
harp on about that or not? I
I
don't
find
know.
it disappointing when you go to a comp and there's only three or four people, five people. Some people enjoy it because they think of the chances of getting on the podium, but I hate it. I hate going to a comp and there's five
It's
people there because
it's really just it's hard to sort of turn it on and be competitive, especially if it is like a two-horse race, or and there's no one getting between you on points. Like it, that's what's really exciting about competing, isn't it? Like that you can overtake people, and
yeah,
when there's only say three of you in the lineup, you just can't. It takes all that away. So obviously I won England's and Brits in my first year, but I don't feel like it was the same experience that people usually get winning the first comp. Sorry, Yesy, stop it. Sorry,
it's all right.
postman. Um, yeah, so I don't really. I had a hard time with that, and then I think obviously going back the second year to defend the title when it was OSG and there were so many big names back in the mix. Like I do actually think physically, I think I was certainly good enough to podium, but I'd put all of the pressure of winning the year before, I'd sort of brought that with me, and I was just an absolute wreck this year at England's. I was a complete and utter mess. I fluffed up the axle floor to overhead. So at the time, I'd hit a 90 kilo axle in training for reps. I was really confident with my axle, and in the comp this year it was 60 kilo for reps. And I should have been good for 10 plus reps, really. I'd been doing that in training. And then on the day, I ended up, I made a real dog's dinner of it. A real bad time. So it was the drop pads, actually, Joe Kennedy. It was the drop pads.
I was
Every
gonna ask
time I
you.
dropped the axle, the log pads, the axle pads fucked off across the room, and at one point I was lifting sideways. I can remember looking sideways to Chloe Brennan, who was reffing me, and she was just like, "What are you doing? What has gone on?" And it was my first event. I think it was the first event out. And I'd just, all the way there, I'd been thinking, oh my God, everyone's expecting that I'm going to fucking win this again. Everyone's expecting. And just I completely messed up every event. So I've realised that I am so much better at going into a comp when no one expects anything
Yeah.
of me
Well,
whatsoever.
I think I seen it might have been Josh who put a reel about that compaction. I think I seen you say something about it. It might have been at OSG when you mentioned it. But I was going to speak to you about nerves and stuff. But before that, I was going to ask you, do you feel like the CrossFit has helped you transition well?
Yeah, massively. So it like in CrossFit, I was always stronger at the sort of lifting side of it anyway. But then CrossFit, I mean, some of the workouts that you do just in the gym, you're training for 35 minutes, like constantly, like supersetting between fucking various different movements. So it makes you quite. It's easy to adapt to things. And like a lot of the awkward implements in strongman, you've just got a better understanding of how to move things from A to B, just because you've just you. I think if anyone can understand Olympic weightlifting, you're in a good place to start learning how to strongman, really, because I mean, like at first time as novice competitions, I sometimes just want to just tap people on the shoulder and say, just have you thought about just just maybe using your legs to do that instead? And just, but I think with CrossFit, you've already got a really good understanding of how to do things the most efficient way, because you're trying to do things faster than whoever you're head to head with. So yeah, in terms of my fitness, and just being able to understand how to do things without ever really having a go at him, I think it gave me a massive, massive head start in strongman. Well, the fact that I turned up to a novice strong woman comp and podiumed, having never done any of the events, just on a good understanding of how to do things.
Is there anything difficult from the transition? Is there anything that you struggled to
The
loosen
thing
up?
I struggled most with was bulk cleans. Because I was a good power cleaner and a good squat cleaner. So sort of doing things when I would see people in strongman bulk cleaning, it sort of gave me the ick. I was like, oh God, stop doing that! It's gross. And then when you're working, at any decent weight, you understand why that needs to be done. But it was sort of um, undoing what I had learned for things like that. Because even at England's, some of that does still creep in sometimes. So at England's this year, when I messed up the axle, I think a massive part of it was I was power cleaning the axle because I could. But I feel like perhaps if I had bulk cleaned, I would have been able to get in a better rhythm and just sort of repeat, repeat, repeat. But in my head, I told myself I'm good enough to power clean this axle, and I'm going to power clean this axle, and I think that was just to my detriment massively on the day, because I can be, if I believe that I can do something, I won't be told different. And I really believed that that was the right thing. On reflection, it was. I don't think it was. And seeing some of the girls, because I thought it's going to be quicker if I can power clean that, it's going to be quicker. But I was gassing myself. I was gassing myself really quickly, and then seeing how many reps some of the other girls got just doing like a nice hot potato bulk clean. I should have just done that. But yeah, um, in some ways it's made me stubborn, and made me think, no, I can do that a different way because I'm proficient. But some in strongman, I don't think. I think proficiency does play a part, but I don't think it's everything. I think you've just got to fucking do it with a lot of strongman events. Just do the thing, just pick the thing up, just don't think about it too
Yeah,
much.
yeah. So you touched on it a second ago about, well, it's kind of about the pressure that you felt. It's something that I've found my sort of mechanism dealing with pressure now, because I'm not good with pressure, and I've had
No,
the same thing of going into a comp and people start mentioning you on the podium predictions, and I hate it.
yeah.
But I've managed to find sort of what works for me now and bat it off and stuff like that. Uh, but do you struggle with nerves going into
Massively.
still?
Yeah, massively. And I
How
think a
do you
massive part of that is that I didn't. I competed in CrossFit for years, but I do think that a strongman competition, it's so different. Like the that was the main thing I liked about strongman, is that it's so sort of community based in the competitions, whereas in CrossFit it's not really like that. It's sort of you're there for yourself, and no one. It's not a community like it is in Strongman. But then with that comes the pressure of sort of people just saying nice things to you, that they believe in you and they back you and they can see you on the podium. And I would just rather that you didn't say that to me at all, because then I'm thinking, well, she's going to think I'm a failure. She's going to, well, that's somebody else I'm going to disappoint. And I really, really struggled with that at the start of this year, just because I felt like an imposter, because I didn't feel like I deserved to have a title when I had it in the first place. And then everyone was bringing my name up, saying I was going to smash every event, and saying, oh, she's going to do... When I went out for that Axel, whoever was on the mic said something about me getting 15 reps, and my head was just like... What? Like, are you mad? And it's obviously just people who think that you're great, but it just... that is something that I need to work on, just sort of being okay with people thinking that, and me not feeling like I've got to deliver that, because that's... You haven't got to deliver anything, have you?
No, that is, yeah, like I said, it's something that I struggled with myself, and not to say that, oh, you're some amazing athlete, but just simple little things. It's one of the things I hate. It's nice of people to say it, but they'll say, you'll smash it, and I hate that, because
Yeah.
I then end
How
up,
do you know that? How do you
I
know?
then end up spending 5 minutes saying how good everyone else is, just
Yeah,
to cover me back in case I don't do well, and
yeah.
then I'm like, yeah, but there's every comp I go to, it's... Yeah, but the guys in this are like so good.
How much more annoying is that as well, when it's coming from people who don't actually understand the sport?
Yeah,
It's...
especially when you're going up the higher levels, like
Yeah, it's really, really hard. Like my
yeah,
mum, I love my mum, and she's my number one fan, but she doesn't understand, like, me coming fourth. Genuinely, even though I did mess up England, I feel like me coming fourth in the lineup this year was probably more of an achievement than when I won it the year before, because there were better girls in the lineup. But explaining that to my mum, who doesn't really get it, and she's saying, "Oh, but you next time," and I'm like, "No, you don't get it, actually, mum. It's not about next time." It's like, and just people. When I did the Open, I did the when was that? When was the Arnold UK? February time, March time.
yeah, it's early days, isn't it?
But
Yeah,
I stepped up and did the Opens and that, and I had a really good... I ended up winning it. But on the run up to that, I did not think... It was to challenge myself and to get a bit more experience, and because I wanted the experience of getting beaten, like, because I hated England. I struggled massively with not getting the podium. Like, I'm okay with saying that out loud now. I struggled with that. I don't think I deserved it on the day, but I did struggle with winning it and then not even being on the podium. So I wanted to do some competitions where I would get beat, just to condition me to being okay with getting beat. And sort of, and on the lead up to it, my mum was sort of like, "You're gonna smash it. You're gonna win that. You're gonna win this time, Rose." I'm like, "You don't understand. These are good seasoned athletes, and it's almost insulting. What you're saying is insulting to them." You know. And it's I get more affected by comments from people who don't even understand what they're saying, which is silly, really. But I think a lot of people, a lot of my clients as well, sort of going from winning novice inters levels comps to then, oh, you're sort of mid pack at the next level up. And they want to pack it in because they think that that's worse, and it's just... It's frustrating, but it's something that I can relate to, and you've just got to stick with it, haven't you?
yeah, definitely. It's we all like to win, don't we? But you have got to be there for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And if
What's the
you are
point?
purely just there to win,
Yeah,
then you're not going to have a good time in the sport. You're not going.
yeah,
At the end of the day, even the competitions where we do get paid, we're not getting paid enough money to make a living. So this is a hobby. Like, and if it's making you sad to the point where you're snapping at the people around you and just not enjoying 50% of your life, then why are you doing it? Just
yeah.
stop doing it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you probably had it at Europe the same as me, where people were saying them same things about you smashing it, and you have to constantly tell them how good everyone else
Yeah.
is.
And they
It's
think, oh, don't put yourself down. I'm like,
yeah,
no, that's not me putting myself down. It's just recognising that these people are better than me, and that's okay because they've done it for longer, and you know. But yeah, I think just people thinking that they're saying the right thing sometimes is just so irritating because it's insulting to a lot of the field. Um, but yeah, Europe's was great fun, wasn't it?
yeah. I was going to speak about that in a bit, but we can do it now. Actually, was that your last major comp, wasn't it?
My last major comp was Europe. Yeah, I did do Queen of the North after, but Europe's was my last one that I properly went for.
How was
Yeah,
your prep and everything for that?
it was really good actually. So I was with Josh at the time, and I went into it feeling pretty good about all of the events apart from the dumbbell. So I'd done at the time. I think that my best dumbbell I'd ever done was 45 kilos. And in the comp, it was announced that it was going to be 50 for reps. So I was like, is it worth me even spending any time prepping for that event? Or do I just try and sort of make the other four events absolutely bulletproof and just accept that I'm probably going to zero that one? And Josh wouldn't have any of that. He was insistent that I was going to get a rep, and I did dumbbell 4 days a week for 8 weeks.
You have a bit of a unique uh, technique with that, don't you? That
Yeah.
not many
So
people can.
the first time I ever picked up a circus dumbbell, that is how I held it. And I was with, he wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but I was with Joe in that strongman room in old school gyms. And it was I think it was a 32 kilo circus dumbbell they had up there. And I just picked it up like that and I just pressed it. And I was like, it's good, wasn't it? He was like, no, you can't do it like that. I was like, oh, why? It's like you can't hold it there. You've got to hold it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'd spent 12 months trying to rack the dumbbell the way that I'd seen everyone else racking the dumbbell, and it honestly went backwards before. I think the most I ever hit with a rack behind my back like that was 37 and a half. And then I was at Rhino's one day doing it. It was at the very start of Europe's prep, actually. I was at Rhino's doing it. And it was digging in my wrist. I was uncomfortable. My bicep was twinging. I said to Joe, this is pissing me off. I said, I'm just going to try and just do it and hold it the way that I would normally hold it. He's like, well, you can if you want. Just, I can't see that that's going to happen for you. I thought it will. And I racked it the way that I would naturally rack it, and I got it straight away. And then from then on in, I just thought, you know what? I'm not listening to any of the noise about my rack technique now, because this obviously is more straightforward for me. So I think it's just to do with the fact that if I was to hold a barbell or an axle, I'd be in that position. Like I'm always quite narrow in my rack anyway. And it's just the same, but with one hand. You know, I think.
If it wasn't for you doing that, because my missus Steph, she done her first times comp and it had dumbbell in it, and it was a Thomas Inch dumbbell, and she'd done that rack position, and she's like, well, Rosie does it and it works. And if it wasn't for you doing it, I'd have gone, no, you're not doing that.
Yeah, I had loads of that. Even Josh, 6 weeks before Europe's, he had me going up to Chaos for like, it wasn't a one-to-one, but the idea of the session was to fucking get me racking a dumbbell properly. And spent an hour on it, spent another 3 weeks having it. So 3 of my sessions I was racking it my way, and the 4th session I was racking it his way, because he was convinced that with the dumbbells at Europe's I would need that rack position. And I did it. I did persevere, and it's just not, doesn't work for it. Just didn't work for me. There might come a point when I do need my rack further over, but it wasn't it just wasn't worth the amount of thought that I was having to put into that rack position for something that just came naturally to me. I've noticed more and more lightweight women doing it, and I'm not saying that it's because of me. I know that Chloe Brennan does use a similar technique sometimes as well. But I think it's good. I think, why should there only be one way to do things if there's an alternative? Yeah, if there's an alternative that works, that people learn faster, I can't see the harm.
How are the rest of the events for you?
So it was a 190 axle for reps, which I think at the time I'd pulled 200 on a deadlift bar, but it had sort of stuck around there for a long time, my deadlift had, so I was expecting 2 or 3 maybe at 190, and I ended up with when we started on axle deadlifts and I put the suit on. I don't know if this is a normal thing for everyone, but I get so much more out of my suit with an axle. I don't know if it's because there's no whip or there's no flex of the bar, but I just feel like it comes off the floor so much better. And Josh was convinced that if I sort of kept tension in the bar on the way down, that it completely transformed my deadlift. And it was, with my deadlift, sort of, I never really did a rep that looked hard, but then it got to a point where I couldn't do any more. I'd pulled 200 a lot of times and it sort of moved like an RPE8 lift, but then I couldn't do 210. It was, something was going wrong. And then Josh had me playing with slow eccentrics with the deadlift and sort of keeping the tension and on the way down and then staying in that position and just sort of exploding back out of the hole. And I got really, really comfortable with that technique. It felt like weightless at times. So I got 7, I think. Yeah, I think I got 7 on the axle in the end at Europe's, which I think was enough for third, which I thought, going into that, I thought that I'd be close to the bottom on the deadlift. Didn't anticipate that at all. But yeah, it was just that it was keeping the tension in the bar, and the second that I let go of the tension, I think after rep 7, it might have been 6. I'm going to say 7, but it could have been 6. But when I gave up the tension on the last rep, I thought, right, I'll just have a second and I'll get a couple more, and then that was it. The bar was glued down. So I think it was learning how to do that. Because prior to that, I'd just pull and then sort of die at the bottom for 5 seconds and then go again. And prepping for the axle that way, now I realise what a trick I've been missing, and I think so many people do miss with deadlifting for reps. I think it's a massive game changer, especially in a suit.
Yeah. You managed to get your hands on the bit of the farmers as well, didn't you? One of the lucky ones.
That was actually by chance. One of my the wooden farmers, you mean?
Yeah.
One of my clients just texted me one day and said that they'd been to a gym in Chester and that they had some lying around outside there, and she just asked the owner if she could borrow them for a bit and brought them to my gym. So thanks very much, Leanne Coughlin, for that. But yeah, so we had the farmers, but to be honest, I actually wish that I hadn't have had those farmers, because I found them so hard. When they said it was 90 kilo and hand farmers, I thought I was expecting it to be for distance, to be honest, because I thought it's pretty light for farmers, and then they said it was the wooden farmers, which I'd never tried before. But I went up to Josh's gym and I had a go on his, and I think it was about 80 kilos in hand, and struggled to even pick them up. I was like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to do this. Oh my god. So we got those, managed to get some at our gym, and I was working at about 75 kilos in hand and managing about 7 to 10 metres at a time on him in the gym. And I was just thinking that I was expecting to do about 5 metres with the 90s at Europe's. And then I came to do it, and I did about, was it a 15-metre run?
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
I got all the way there, and I got about half of the way back, which was loads better than what I thought. But I actually think that on that event, some of the people who did better were the people who just picked him up and fucking run with him. Like, I was so respectful of him because because I tried him in training, and I knew they were a bit awkward. I was just. I was going so slowly, like watching the video. I'm like, "What were you doing? Why were you?" And then every time I dropped them, I was stepping outside of the farmers and nudging them back into position and making sure they were perfectly square before I picked him back up again. And then my pickup was fucking easy. I was picking them up absolutely fine, but I was just treating him with an outrageous amount of respect because I'd struggled in training. But I almost think if I hadn't have had the experience of trying and struggling, I think I probably just would have picked him up and gone, like so many of the other girls did, and they would have banged about a bit, but it would have been a lot quicker, and I possibly would have finished the run because I got timed out, but I could have carried on. So I actually think with that, I should have just trusted that I'd do it and not actually bothered practicing on the exact implement because I spooked myself.
Yeah, they were like quite a big, they were a big thing, weren't they? Like,
Yeah.
like talking about him and stuff, and I tried all kinds to replicate it. I put like normal farmers, then put throwing bags.
Throwing bags, yeah. I used that before we got the wooden ones.
Oh yeah, it might have been from you that I got it from actually. Put it in the WhatsApp group. Um, yeah, and that caned me. Like I couldn't. What was I was struggling with 90, I think.
Yeah,
Really, really slow.
yeah,
But the first time I touched the handles was when he said go, and my goal was to finish it. I didn't care what my time was. I just wanted to finish it, and I seen everyone drop in and stuff, and I managed to do the full 30 without a drop, obviously, except for the drop.
yeah.
But it was really slow, like. Really.
But there was, I can remember talking to Rach Greathead, who hadn't practiced on him at all. And she was just, I was like, how have you prepared for this? Like, how have you? She's like, oh, I've just done normal farmers. I was like, oh my God, you're going to struggle. I was like, I hope you're prepared because this is going to be hard. And then she just fucking picked him up and ran with him like she would with normal farmers. And I think she won that event. Maybe she was in the top 2 in that event. And I just thought, this is mental. Like, I have treated him with such respect, and I think sometimes you should just do it. Just do the thing, because it's still 90 kilos, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had like sleepless nights over these farmers and everything. That was my one biggest thing going.
Yeah.
These farmers are gonna kill me off, and yeah, I wasn't great. I think it was like below mid pack finishing.
Yeah.
But I was just made up to finish.
Yeah.
Because it was just giving me anxiety all morning.
I think we all shit ourselves a bit too much about those farmers, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then it was sandbag over bar, wasn't it? Which I was really happy with. I really liked that event. Which I wasn't my whole day at Europe's 4 months before, I wouldn't have predicted that I'd get half of the reps that I did. So I actually wasn't able to get the 100 bag past my knees about 3 or 4 months out. It just I could get it off the floor, and then I was sort of trying to pick it up the same way that I'd pick up a 60 or an 80, and I was finding that my legs were in the way of the bag sort of thing, which is a common problem that I think girls do have with the bigger bags. And then I was training with Joe, my partner Joe, one Saturday, and I think I'd cried, which isn't uncommon for a Saturday training session, but I think I'd done some crying about the sandbag, and he just said, why don't you just have your legs a bit wider, and then your stupid knees won't be in the way? And I was like, shut up, Joe. And then I actually just tried it, like in a sort of sumo stance style pickup, getting it past my knees while my legs were on the outside of it, and then bringing my legs in to lap it. I was like, fucking hell, that's dead easy, actually. That's much, much easier way of getting a big bag onto your knee. And then once I'd understood the pickup part, once it's on my knee, I can load anything. I'm confident to say that. Once I've got it here, I can load it. So I ended up getting 6 on the 100 kilo bag over bar, which, no, I was going to say I was winning, and then Nick Bennett, the bitch, came out and did 7. And I had about 5 seconds on the clock after my 6th rep, and I thought, do I do another? And I thought, nah, no one's beating that. I was so confident. I thought it's physically impossible to get 7 in that time. And then Nick come out and got 7. And I thought, you fucking bastard. But I think if I would have done 7, Nick would have just come out and done 8. I think she's just that fucking good, to be honest. But yeah, so sandbag went loads better than I thought. The farmers, it went better than I thought, but I think if I hadn't been so scared of them, I could have just done it a lot better. And then deadlift was great. So I think at the end of day 1, I think I was sitting in 2nd, but it was dumbbell first event on day 2, and I was still 50-50 whether I was going to get a rep. But I thought, this is really good because I can afford, even if I zero the dumbbell, there's a good chance that I can stay in the podium sort of thing. And then, yeah, I woke up on the Sunday, and I don't know if I mentioned this to anyone, but it was my 30th birthday at Europe's. So I woke up on my 30th birthday on the Sunday, and we were driving back to the comp, and I just said to Joe, I says, I'm going to get 2 reps on that dumbbell today. He said, Rose, he says, just think about getting 1. I says, no, you don't understand. You don't understand, Joe. I'm going to get two reps. And I just think with me, sometimes I've got to believe that I'm going to do it. And I just told myself all morning, you're going to get 2 reps. Like, don't even entertain the idea that you're going to zero that dumbbell. You're going to get up there and you're going to get 2 reps. And that's what I did. And now I don't know why I didn't just say, get 3. I don't know why I didn't do that. But yeah, so dumbbell went really well. And then I managed to beat Nicola on the loading event last to seal 2nd place, which just... I always said I would like to I thought top 5 at Europe. When I started Strongman, I thought top 5 at Europe would be like overall goal by when I'm 30. And then to actually get 2nd place on my 30th birthday, I was just like, mint, that I'm done. What? I've got nothing else to do here. I'm finished.
So
yeah.
Not fancy Worlds after that then?
Oh, I'd love to do Worlds, mate. It's just it's financial more so than anything else. It's financial, and I think I could have fundraised. I've got, like, I think, especially because I run a gym, I feel like if I would have done a fundraiser, I feel like I definitely would have made enough, at least a good amount of the money up to go. But then, and I wasn't deluded into thinking that I was sort of top world level athlete. I feel like possibly, having watched it, but I hate it when people do this, I feel like I could have made the top 10 this year, but I hate it when people say that. So, because I'm basing it on nothing, but I really wouldn't want to fundraise and go unless I felt like I was at least in contention with, like, the very top girls. And I just thought, I don't want to, because I've got a daughter, because I've got a child as well, I'd have to sort of navigate whether she came with me, and if so, I'm then paying for her and Joe to come out as well. And then I just, it was weighing all of that up. And having watched it, I watched every single second of it last weekend, and sort of I'm thinking, oh, I just wish I was there. I wish I was there. And I sort of did wish that I would have maybe done that this year, but I wouldn't have made. I would have maybe scraped the top 10, I think, in the 73s. I also watched the 64s, and I think I could have done really well. The 64s. Because obviously I'm dropping a weight class next year, and I just think it's a more logical thing for me to do, to get some experience in the 64s category this year, and go and do Worlds as a 64 where I do believe that I could be good enough. Maybe not to podium, but to be pretty close to, I think.
Yeah, and my reason for not going this year was the money side of things. I went last year, and I'm glad I did, but also wish I didn't at the same time because it was my first 80s comp, so
Right.
I'd never cut before and I'd
Yeah.
never refed before, and that's where I made my mistakes. Um, and I felt like I was a better athlete this year.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew a lot of the category now, and I thought, oh, would it be great to be there with them, watching them all, and I felt like I'm not a massive confident person in my own ability, but I would like to say I think I have potential for top
Yeah.
now. So as much as I was disappointed, I had to make them mistakes last year, so I'll just put that behind me. But I still think if they have a good season, I was gonna can it off actually after Europe's and do some other stuff and put strongman on the back burner. But after like 3 months of doing normal bro training, I felt lost and I
Yeah.
thought, no, I'm not
Not done
quite
yet.
done yet. Yeah, so look at competing this year in the 80s again, maybe getting into, so I haven't got such a huge cut all the time, making some changes that way to try and
Yeah.
bring my weight down. But I even took a break from Josh as well, and explained like, look, I'm just looking to do some other stuff, and I said if I want to come back, will you have me back? Because I don't think I'd like to go with anyone else. It's
I did the exact same thing after Europe's.
yeah,
So I sort of I did that at Europe's, and then with doing I just felt like I'd put my body through a lot by the time Europe's came around. Because I did the European Pro Show in, was it January or February as well, up in
yeah, that was
Edinburgh.
early
So
on.
my season started really, really early anyway. And then after Europe's, I thought, right, I've peaked now for the year, at least for the year. I'm going to just come away. Obviously, I opened the gym this year as well. So I was just completely mentally burnt out from strongman, and I just couldn't even bring myself. Like I was doing PTs in the gym, and I was finishing my PTs, and normally I'd train, and I just thought I don't want to stand in this gym for I don't I lost all motivation to do it.
Yeah,
And then I did the same thing. I sort of said to Josh, like I'm not enjoying it at the minute. I'm just not enjoying my training, so I just want some time out, just to just do some, just sort of find something that I enjoy again. And then I just found myself missing strongman.
yeah,
So yeah, it's hard as well because so many athletes just seem to compete year round, and I'm just thinking, how is your body and brain sort of dealing with all that without going into meltdown? So for
yeah.
me, I think that three well prepared comps is the most that I can do in a year without it just being way too much.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about, firstly, the importance of having a coach, and then secondly, we'll talk a little bit about Josh because obviously we've both been
Yeah.
with him and had some good success with him. But first, what would you say the importance of having a coach was?
For me, it's someone to be accountable to, because obviously I do coach, and I think I'm pretty good as well. Like my clients do great, but whenever it comes to me writing myself a plan, I don't really know how to say this. I don't respect myself. Like I'll sort of just think, if somebody else writes it down for me, I respect it and I do it and I see it as a command. Whereas if it's something that I've wrote down for myself, I just think, oh well, I don't know what I was thinking when I put that in. Or for me personally, when I've tried to coach myself, I cut a lot of corners and I don't do a lot of the things that matter. And yeah, I don't take myself seriously enough to listen to myself. And also with that, I'm guilty of doing too much. If if I don't have a coach, I'll just burn myself into a recovery hole, because I believe naively when I'm writing the plan that I'm physically capable of a lot more than what I actually am.
Well, I started writing mine, and I feel like I go, and you need to do that, and you need to do that, and you need to do that, and before I know it, I've got like 10 things on my session.
Yeah,
Whereas when it's with Josh, there's like 4 things, and even though my brain goes, you've you're not doing this or you're not doing that, it's like, well, it doesn't matter because he
it's
knows
not
what he's
written
doing.
down.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He
yeah.
said it.
So it was that, and it was just, I feel like I needed to learn how. I was strong, but I needed to be a better strong woman. Like, I needed to be better at stealing points and just be better at being competitive. And I genuinely, hand on heart, believe that there's no one better at doing that than Josh Lancaster. Like, in terms of making you a better competitor,
Yeah.
I think Josh is probably one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Was you with him from your first comp? I was with him from before.
I was
Before.
with him from my first national comp. So from sort of Midland Strongest Woman onwards, I was with Josh. Prior to that, I was with Donna Moore when I very first started, but that was mostly just because she was one of the only strong women that I knew at that time, and obviously Donna's incredible, and I really respected her. And just, I just within a few months, I just felt like I needed a little bit more sort of technical coaching. Like Donna's programming in terms of making me stronger was very good, but I didn't feel like I was getting like better at competing, so to speak. Like the technique stuff was where I was lacking, like learning how to belt clean properly and efficiently, and understanding like where the carryover to weightlifting was in all of that. And I'd followed Josh, and I can remember looking at my program and thinking, I won't be doing like all that what he's doing. Like, that looks really cool. So I just messaged him. I'd stopped working with Donna after about 3 months and gone back to programming myself. And then as soon as I messaged Josh, really, that was it. That was it. From about 2 months of being programmed by him, just my performance in competition just completely skyrocketed. I was looking at competitions a different way. Like, I was looking at him competitively, about thinking, what will the rest of this lineup not think about doing that I can do to make me that 1 point? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I think that what Josh does is sort of, you can't really put a price on it for that sort of quality. It's fantastic.
I was pretty similar actually. I was with Dean Maiden at first, and which was good, and I felt like he was getting me strong. But then yeah, I seen what Josh was doing, and I feel like our brains were quite similar. Like the technical detail, I loved the technical detail.
I feel like he can sort of condense quite complicated things that other coaches complicate and sort of make impossible to understand. He's really good at breaking that down to a level that like normal people can just get their head around.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can just remember, just from a couple of reels, he helped me understand certain movements that I'd been struggling with, and I can remember thinking, fucking hell, like, if I was just coached by this guy, I could actually be pretty good. And then yeah, he's been. I'm thinking probably in the new year I will start back up with him once Christmas is out of the way, and when my head's back in training 100%, because I just don't think that there's anybody who sort of gets you ready for a competition quite as good as Josh does at a high level, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'll be doing the same. Yeah, probably throw a message out at some point. Hope he takes me back. But if he takes you back and not me, I'll be.
Well, I don't know actually, because I completely failed him at the team comp yesterday.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I've seen some videos on that actually.
It was a great day, but if it wasn't for the fact that I was doing it with Josh, I would have not done it. Like, I hadn't really trained. There was a max deadlift in it. And like 2 weeks before, I thought I'll just need to do one heavy deadlift session, and I pulled 180, and it felt like RPE 10, and I just thought, why am I doing this now? Why? And I thought, because it's Josh, and you've got to do it, and you get through this. And all in all, it was just a really nice, fun day. But that's another one. I put pressure on myself over that, and it's like, no one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. Like, at that level of competition, no one's prepped for it. No one cares. But yeah, I got a time penalty on the farmers. I failed. I didn't even finish the loading medley. So if we're basing whether he allowed me back on yesterday's performance, I think I've fucked it.
Yeah, hopefully he'll have me back. I feel like I'm not hard work as well. Like I never want for nothing. Well, this is what I think. Sometimes I have a bit of a moan, or I don't finish
Yeah.
stuff, or I'm like constantly going, "Oh, I've got this niggle, I've got that niggle," and he's really good at sort of leaving me alone until the point where I think I'm going to give up, and then he almost as if he knows, and he'll start
Yeah.
messaging me, which is really weird. I've said it to a few times now. I'm like, how does he know? I'm like, I'm almost
Yeah.
ready to just sack it off because I can't be bothered anymore. But then just pops up out of nowhere,
Yeah.
start checking on you, and
I think a lot of the time, and that is because people do whinge a lot. People do whinge a lot, and a lot of the time, there's not really that much behind the whinging. We just want to whinge,
yeah,
but then it does get to a point, doesn't it, when it's valid, and it is all getting a bit much. And I also had the same experience. I felt like Josh sort of knew when to just ignore me. He knew when I was just being Rosie, and I was just saying things that I didn't really mean just because I'd had one bad session sort of thing.
yeah,
But then every time that I have completely felt like I've lost my shit, he's been great, when he'll send me fucking 16-minute long voice notes and while he's in the middle of his training session. And I think, I like to think that I do as I'm told, and I sort of do my programme. But fucking hell, I can whinge about it. I do, and I do whinge about it. But yeah, but that is it as well, because if somebody else gives me a program, I take it as a military operation. Like, I have got to do. This person clearly thinks I'm capable of doing this list of things, so I must do them. So yeah, like, and if I missed one of them numbers, I'd feel like, well, I'm not good enough then, because he thinks that I'm at this level and I'm down here, and clearly. But again, that is just it's realizing that is the sport. That is the real sport. Like, that is 90% of it. It's nothing to do with, majority of the time, you're not competing, you're in the gym, and 90% of your sessions aren't going to be the best session of your life. And it's sort of realising that, and that is the fun in it. The fun in it is those 10% sessions that you get along the way. But
yeah. I
I
think it
think,
takes a long time to realise that as well. At first, you're like, these bad sessions, you like throw your toys out the pram, and
yeah, it's
you
because
dig
when you
out.
first start, it's really easy gains, isn't it? And you can sort of PB everything every week, and then when that goes, and you're hitting the same numbers all the time, and it feels like you're not getting anywhere. I mean, that is what makes a competitor, isn't it? Because so many people just throw the towel in when they're not getting that same gratification anymore. And I think sort of that they are the people who make it to the top level, like the people who get past that and carry on in spite of that.
Yeah,
Like, 'cause in terms of numbers, I could have easily given up. My numbers haven't got any better, really. In the past 2 years, my overhead has been between 80 and 90 on any implements, and my deadlift has been round about 200. And in terms of a one rep max, I've not really put anything on either of those lifts. And if I was basing my success off that alone, I would have knocked it on the head. But then I know that I can pick up points in a comp now, and I know that I can beat people who are better at me at those one lifts. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And like, you look at people obviously post the best bits of training, and you look at people on Instagram and think, fucking hell, she's in my weight class and she's pressing 20 kilos more than me for reps. I can still beat her. But it's realising that just because they're posting that one lift that they're really, really fucking good at, yeah, they're still beatable on 5 other events,
Yeah, I see that a lot on Instagram actually. So I think everyone does it, but going into a comp and so sometimes you see, especially like at the high level comps, it's hard to not know these people because you
Yeah,
already know them.
yeah,
You trip up to the same
yeah, yeah,
comps all the time, so you know these people. And I look at the left and I'm like, wow, he's flying.
yeah,
And then on comp day, I find myself ahead, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't always understand how. Like
yeah,
these people, like I was who was I speaking to? Oh, like Rick Molnar sometimes puts like a post about something, and he'll say, "Oh, last time I told someone to drop down to the
yeah.
18."
That was you,
Or
wasn't it?
yeah, but I still think, and people have gone, "Don't put
I bet
yourself
you've
down."
still got him on a pedestal, though.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
say I still think overall Rick's probably better than me as a strongman, but I've beaten him twice this year. But
yeah.
I'd say if
So
you I'd say if you put us next to each other and put all the strongman events in front of us, I'd say he was probably better. I think we're similar, but I think he's slightly better. But that doesn't mean that I've not been able to beat him.
yeah,
I
yeah,
have,
yeah.
but I still think he's slightly better, and that's not
Well,
taking anything away
I
from
think
me.
all of us at a top level, it is so hard. It's so hard to back yourself when other people, you know that they can lift more than you and do more. Like I've beaten Rach Greathead. I've had Rach Greathead on this pedestal up here, and since I've started, I've watched her and just thought, like, wow, how are her shoulders doing that? I just couldn't understand. And then I beat her at Europe's, and still now I watch her training and I think, oh, but she can do that and I can't. And I've beat it. I've already put it to, do you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
in my head, she's still, and it's just sort of, I don't know if that ever goes away. I don't know if it'd be a good thing if that went away, because I suppose that's what keeps you hungry, isn't it? That's what keeps you wanting to do
yeah,
it. But I can't sometimes separate myself from the situation and look at it objectively and think, no, you have beaten these people already. Do you know what I mean? It's so hard to
yeah.
accept.
It's almost like the imposter syndrome. Josh always
Yeah,
used to say to me about I don't believe in myself. He always believes in me more than I believe in myself, and
yeah,
I'm getting there with it. But I also think, well, should I change it now because it seems to be working for me?
yeah.
Or we just keep this humble little attitude and just go and everyone gets the respect. But then I think, like in me head, of course I want to win and stuff, but I don't want to go out there and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna beat
I
this
think,
person.
yeah, in competitions when I have felt like I'm capable of winning and that I should win, it's more so when I feel that I should win it. That they're the ones that I fuck up, and it's sort of the ones where I go in with little to no expectation. Europe's, I just thought, because it was on my birthday, I thought, right, if it is that you fuck this up, you've ruined your birthday. Number one, you've ruined your 30th birthday, and you'll remember that for the rest of your life. And number two, like, you can't show your face again because this is. So I sort of thought, right, well, I'm just gonna go and enjoy it. I'm just gonna go and sort of try and socialise a bit more than what I normally do, because I can be a little bit autistic in a competition sometimes, and just sort of struggle to mix with my other competitors because I'm so mental. I'm so caught up in what I'm doing. And I just thought I really just need to not do that this weekend and just try and actually enjoy it. And then I think from doing that and relaxing, like became physically relaxed, and then I just performed so much better. So I definitely think there's something in just chilling the fuck out and just remembering that it's your hobby and you're meant to enjoy this. Like, it's a very expensive hobby as well. So if you're getting there and you're feeling sick with nerves and you're not actually enjoying it, then why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not big like one. So yeah, I just think you've got to enjoy it. You've got to try and enjoy it, and then in enjoying it, usually you can perform a little bit better too.
Yeah, definitely. So I was going to say, would you say that it's like a serious question now. Would you say that opportunities for women in the sport are equal to men?
Do you know what? In my experience, in my personal experience in the sport, I've got to say, yeah. I've not competed at the high level where years ago where men were getting paid and women weren't, and in the short time that I've been in the sport, there's been relatively equal opportunities for women, but I know that historically that hasn't been the case. And like this year, the rogue female winners got the same as what the men did, didn't they? Which is fantastic, and the reality is it should always have been that way. But I think, in fairness to a lot of promoters, they can only promote what the public are interested in, and I don't think that the people haven't been as interested in women's strength sports up historically up until, it's quite niche. Like, it's still quite a niche thing. So I do kind of understand why. I saw a story on Facebook a few weeks ago, a girl who was ranting and raving because the England Strongest, there'd been an email sent out advertising England's Strongest Man with no mention of England's Strongest Woman. It turned out that it was an Ultimates advert, so they weren't actually running an England's Strongest Woman, so that's why it wasn't mentioned. But then equally, the men's shows sell a lot of tickets, so you can understand why that would be the driving force in the promotion. Really, I think that if the women's sport is to continue to grow, we just need to normalise weightlifting at a normal level. Like, outside of strongman, we need to normalise that women should be lifting weights for health benefits. Like, I still now, as a personal trainer, get messages from women saying that they want to get toned, but they don't want to lift weights because they don't want to look bulky, and like it's so frustrating. So frustrating that still in this day and age, women have still got this idea that girls shouldn't be doing that, and I'm gonna get broad, and I just, with little to no understanding that they're gonna need them muscles in 50 years' time to open the cupboards and wipe their own arse and just to take care of your own body. So yeah, I just think that women in strength needs to still come a lot further outside of strength sports, if you know what I mean. And I think that the better we do as a world at that, at getting women understanding that you need to be lifting weights for your health, I think that the more we understand that, the more accepting people will be of women in having a place in strength sports. But in my experience, I don't feel that men have been given more of an opportunity personally than women. I can't say that that's been the case.
What advice would you give to women who are looking to either get into strength sports or get into strongman?
Get a coach. And I think the sooner you do that, the better. And I also think that the sooner you compete, the better. I think you can put competing on a pedestal. Just competing as an idea, and you think, oh well, I want to wait until I can do this number and this number and this number before I'll compete. And I think if that is the way you think about it, you'll probably never compete. I just think, get in there, whether you're ready or not, just rip the plaster off and have a go. And actually, the only real way of knowing what you need to work on is to do the thing and sort of see where you measure up against other people. But I think it's a great thing for women to get into. It's something, I think that women need to get away from the ideology that we need to exercise to change our bodies. And I think we need to get more into the idea of let's exercise to celebrate what our bodies can actually do, because it's fucking awesome. Like, your body can do so much stuff that you've never given it credit for or entertained because you're so obsessed with making it smaller. So yeah, I just think that Strongwoman is a really, really good thing for women to get into who want to go to the gym, because number one, you're getting stronger, you're going to be getting fitter, you've got to be doing a lot of fitness stuff, you're going to be working on your endurance, you're going to be doing all of the pillars of strength and fitness, and it's just a really fun and engaging way of doing it, where, fair enough, if one thing's not going too well, if you're having a bad time with the axle, get the log out and have a go on that. Like, there's always a different variation in strongman. There's something else you can do if you're not enjoying one thing, and I don't even think it needs to be at a competitive level. I think that strongwoman training is just good training. It's good foundational training for anyone to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. So the two questions that I'll give you a bit of time to think about. We'll start with the easy one. The top 3 athletes that you've ever competed
I
with.
struggled with this, actually. I did struggle with this.
I mean, Nicola Bennett included the whole of the Giants Live competitors, so, you know.
No, I've not done that. I've not been that nice. No, the number 1 is Sandra Bradley, which was at the European Pro Show I think it was February. But I'd followed her before I even competed in the sport. I followed her and sort of as like Wonder Woman. I just thought, I can't believe that this woman exists. I can't believe that a woman can do these things. And then seeing her in real life, and I can remember watching her on the running up to the prep. And she's got a really, really impressive raw deadlift, like properly raw deadlift with no straps, nothing. And I think I saw her pull 240 on Instagram a few weeks before. And I knew at that moment, I thought, wow, I'm out of my depth doing this comp, like, wowzer. But I just thought, to even be in a room with her and to witness her do that, like, wow, well, that's a massive, massive thing. And yeah, she did a 240 raw deadlift, and the suits were allowed, but she didn't fucking need one. She won the event anyway. So watching her pull the 240 raw deadlift and just completely obliterate every other event, that was really special. And that was at the start of this year. And I didn't do too well at that comp. I ended up pulling out of that comp with an event to go because I thought that I'd detached my hamstring, but it was just really bad cramp. It was really, really bad cramp. But at the time, I wouldn't be told, and it was definitely a grade 2 hamstring tear. But anyway, sort of coming away from that experience with her and competing in the same field as her, I thought, because I think I was in 5th place up until I pulled out, and the rest of the field was pretty fucking good. And I remember thinking, Jesus, like, I'm far away from it for sure, but like not worlds apart, not like as far apart as I thought I was from the top girls in CrossFit. Like, it's a few years here, 3 or 4 years work, and like I could be as good as her. So competing with her was a massive eye opener and confidence boost, thinking like far away but not that far away. The other one has probably got to be Nick Bennett, to be fair. My number 2 has got to be this year. I've had encounters with Nick over the past 2 years competing, but we've always been in different categories. So we were similar weights, but we've always been in different categories. I think when I first met her, it was at Brits under 82s. She was competing in Brits under 82s, and it was the year when there were like 3 people in each category. When I won it, but I feel like I didn't really win anything. And I think that she won the 82s that year. So I've sort of been in the same room as her a lot of times, but just sort of been like a bit daunted by her greatness. I've always just been, generally when I think that someone's really good, I crawl up my own arse, and I'm not one of these people who like wants to have pictures with you, and if you'll know if I think you're good because I won't be anywhere near you. I'll be watching from afar. That is sort of how I was with Nick. And then I think it was at the Arnold UK this year, I'd forgotten to bring any tape for my stones, for my arms. And I asked Nick for some tape and started speaking to her then, and I realised, fucking hell, she's just a normal person, actually. She's just dead down to earth and a normal person who I've been completely ignoring for the past 12 months. So yeah, competing with Nick at Europe's and beating her at one event, yeah, that was awesome. Because she's just, I was speaking to her on the run up to Europe's, and I was sort of telling her that I was really struggling mentally with, like, I just wanted to enjoy it, and I just wanted to not feel really, really nervous and insecure. And I could just remember her saying to me, like, if there's anything I can do for make you more comfortable when you're there, just give me a shout. And just her saying that was enough, sort of thing, like. And then I had a person there then. Like, I had someone who I could sit with and sort of go through all the events with. And I wasn't expecting someone as good as Nick to be that nice, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I think that Nick was massively responsible for pulling a really good performance out of me at Europe's. And it's a shame that she lives in Edinburgh, because I think that if we could be training partners, I think we'd both get quite a lot out of each other. And my last one, do you know what? I'm going to say Josh Lancaster. Just from the back, we did the 2 team comps together. First year round, we won it. And this time, I think we could have won it if I was even half on form. but both times, on both occasions, Josh has been insanely consistent. And he's just so strategic, like so strategic to the minutest detail. Like, it was a funny medley, but it was. So there's a tag team farmers for a start. So one athlete went 20 metres and brought it back, and then you've got to tag your partner and they do the same. So Josh was like he'd asked in advance if we could move as farmers closer to the line, which we were allowed to do. No one else had asked that. So we were closer together anyway. And then he'd already tagged me. He'd sort of managed to tag me before he was even probably out like past the line, just so we could have a quicker transition. And then, like, just that sort of thing, like in the medleys, he's always thought of the best way of doing it, and he's watched other people and watched where they've slipped up.
Well, I've
And you
got
can
a similar one with a medley, actually, with Josh. It was at Europe's. I never spoke to Josh almost the whole time I was at Europe. You'd just say, "You all right?" I say, "Yeah," and that was it.
Yeah.
All I needed until the last event, that medley, and I noticed that the keg. I'd been working on this quick pickup, literally tilt, pick, and go. And
we weren't allowed to put the handles in the.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same thing.
Handles, not the way I wanted.
Yeah.
For everyone, and I went to Josh. I said they're not facing the handles in the way I've been practicing, and he said,
"Do it without the handles," he said to me.
Do it without the handles. He said, "I've just done a few without the handles. Do it like that." But he went into more detail. He said, "Right, so you're up against Finley. If you're ahead of Finley, take the extra second and go around the keg and pick it up with the handles if you've got the time. If Finley's ahead of you, gamble and pick it up without the handles and try and force him to make a mistake." And it was like, that's the only time I needed him at Europe's was that, and he had it laid out.
Yeah.
It was literally down to the second plan of how we'd attack every implement on
Yeah.
that.
It's them 1% details though, isn't it? It's the 1% like that is where you steal points, especially when it's a medley and it's not super light. Everyone's going to be running. Everyone's going to be going pretty quick. Anyone at the top of the field is all going to be going at a similar speed. So it's like, how can I overtake by that 1%? And Josh is just the best in the world at sort of seeing that. Like, he's really good at sort of extracting them bits of data and sort of exploiting them to his athlete's advantage. But yeah, I had the same thing. So I was sort of pushing the keg away and then lifting it and carrying it that way. I dropped on there though because it looked to me that Nick Bennett had never picked a fucking tyre up in her life. It looked to me. She'd said, "I've not really practiced with a tyre." I think it was Nick. But someone had told me they'd not really practiced with a tyre, and I thought, I fucking got this then. Absolutely got this. And yeah, Nick fumbles the tyre pickup. Yeah. And I sort of seen in my peripheries, I thought, right, she's fucked this now if I just keep going. And then I just managed to keep that lead on her. But there was just. There was another one as well. Rach as well. I'm having 4. Rach Greathead is awesome to compete with. Really good to compete with. Like, she's really, really experienced. She's done a lot of comps and is really nice. She's a really sound girl. But yeah, just watching her do. I think she did the 82s at Brits this year, didn't she? And she won the 82s. But she pressed a 90-kilo log for 5 reps better than I've seen a lot of men do it. Like, no disrespect, but fuck me. Like, the shoulders on that woman. Just to witness that sort of thing, like, from a lightweight woman in real life is fucking mind-blowing. Yeah. So strong. Yeah. I'm just impressed by anyone who's dead strong or dead nice. Just love it. Really love it.
On the other end then, what grinds your gears? What annoys you in the sport?
To be honest, there's probably a list of about 15 different things that I could say now, but I feel that some of them are too divisive for me to say out loud, so I'm not going to. So I will say people who take themselves very seriously. Competitors who take themselves very seriously. In particular, people who've achieved lots of things, and then sort of think they've got to stick up their arse and they're too uptight to sort of make time for people who are beneath them. And I think that really shows in places like the warm-up area when people seem to think that they're entitled to a better warm-up than other people. And in fair, I've seen this with women and men. But it can get really, really catty, and you sort of see some of the less experienced athletes just crawl up their own arse and accept that they're just not going to get a very good warm-up in, and I fucking hate that. I really hate that. Because it's bullshit. Like, we're all entitled. It's shit. Generally, at a high-level comp, your warm-up scenario is never going to be ideal. But it should be the same for everyone. It should be a bit shit for everyone, but we've all got the same. And I just think it's really shit when sort of people use their own name and sort of achievements to claim more of a space in that room and to sort of make other people feel like they're not entitled to be there or to have a warm up on the same bit of kit. I hate that so much.
Yeah, I can see that you've got names in your head. I'm not going to ask you to say them, but
yeah,
when you saying that, I can think of people in the same, and I bet anyone listening can also have names who's got that. I've never said mine out loud, actually, what my thing is that I hate. So, episode 11 now, and I'm only just letting anyone know what my gripe is.
Oh, I feel really excited to share this with you, Joe.
Yeah, well, it is. I don't know why, right? I'm quite a respectful person, and I give people respect and where it's due, and I just expect it back and stuff like that. But my thing is, people that have not done anything yet, but always say they're gonna take all the titles and do this and do that, and they've not sort of got the credentials yet. I find it a little bit disrespectful to people who have.
Yeah, I've got a couple of names in my head for that one, but people who have chosen not to compete at a certain comp, but then say after the fact, I would have podiumed in that. And I think if you've got the evidence and data to back up what you're saying, and you've done those events, and you've got the same set of results over a period of time, then fair enough, you can make claims like that. Yeah. But when you're making claims like that with no evidence whatsoever, nothing substantial to back up what you're saying, and from a place of not really achieving that much at all, that really pisses me off. Yeah, pisses me off.
I don't often see it, but I do see it, and I get people are having confidence, and confidence is good, and you've got to have aspirations, but I feel, to me personally, I feel like it's taken away from the people that have actually got
Yeah,
these titles and done it, and you've not got anything yet, but you're basically saying, I will take everyone's
yeah.
hard work.
And I just do
And
it without any. Well, I
yeah,
just, yeah, it's
yeah,
fucking
just go and
annoying.
do it first, and then I'll listen to what you're
Yeah,
saying. But yeah, that's mine, and it always gets on my nerves. No one's asked me about mine yet, so I thought I'd just share them.
yeah. No, I'm glad you've shared. I'm glad you've shared.
So I wanted to kind of almost lastly ask you about your drop down to 64s and where the decision come for that.
So, I've never been a proper 73 anyway. So, I saw when I started competing, I was sitting at about 70 kilos. And then when I was looking at the weights for Midland Strongest Woman, I could do all of the under 73s weights. So I just thought it makes sense to just do the category for the weight that I actually am at 70 kilos to do the under 73s. And then I just continued on that pathway because I was doing well and I sort of wasn't having any issues on a national level with hitting those weights. Um, and then I stayed on. I was sort of actively trying to bulk, but I'm really physical as a person. So like, obviously, I train loads, but then I'm on my feet. I still take classes and I still do PT. So I'm on my feet a lot. So my expenditure is really really high. And for the entire time that I was competing in 73s, I was having just shy of 4,000 calories a day, which was fucking constant eating, near enough. I was eating all the time, and I still wasn't at the heaviest I ever got to was 73.5. So sort of. I can't really say that it's held me back because I've done really well as a 73, but sort of I look at the world's athletes and I know that they're up to 10 kilos bigger than me. Do you know what I mean? Throughout the year. And I just think I'm doing this because, to be completely honest, I want to get to a world level. Like, I would love to get to a world level and hold my own. And I just think if I'm going to be realistic, I'm trying really, really hard just to get up to 73. And my body's not happy there. Like I was having a lot of stomach issues as well with constantly eating, and I didn't feel great. Like I'm not in this to have a really nice body, but when I was competing in CrossFit, I had a six pack like all the time, and I loved having a six pack. And I never had that. I didn't really like. I didn't feel like I looked very athletic as a 73. And then since I've come after Europe, since I took a bit of a step away from training, my weight has organically dropped down to about 68 kilos. Um, and then once I've started training a bit more again, it's gone down again it's now sitting at 67.1 after carb loading over the weekend and sort of after. So I just feel like I'm not getting any younger. I'm 30 years old. Ideally, I want to do the world's thing before I'm a fucking master. And I just think I've got more chance of going there and being competitive in the weight class that I actually am. So yeah, it's sort of, I don't really want to continue putting my body under the stress of gaining weight when it just doesn't seem to want to. And I want to be competitive at a world level, so I think it's probably the competitive thing to do.
Yeah, I was kind of similar. Like I competed at 90 for a while, and nationally I'm okay. But I thought internationally I don't feel like I'm good enough as
Yeah,
a 90. So I thought about coming down to the 80s, and I feel good when I compete at 80. Like
yeah,
I'm a small framed person underneath,
yeah,
and like people say, oh, like I'm big as an under 80, and I am. But naturally, I used to be 69 kilos
yeah,
and like early 70s, so I
yeah,
put like 20 kilo on to get to 90. But now I do naturally sit heavier at like 90, 91. So it is a bit of a cut for me. But yeah, I felt internationally I was better suited at 80. So yeah, I'm kind of similar. So what's your first sort of steps with under 64 this year?
I'm down to do England's in the under 64 cat in February.
Oh, the unbreakable bridge. Yeah.
So, and also it's quite nice to sort of look at the events through a comp and just think all of that, like it's all really comfortable for me. So like it's a nice start to the prep. I don't feel like I've got to get any bigger to hit these numbers. I don't feel like I've got to do anything drastic to hit these numbers. It's just a matter of practicing them and sort of practicing my transitions and being fit. Um, I think the under 64s is going to be a different challenge in that the weights are considerably lighter, but the girls are fitter. I think it's a different it's a different standard of competitor in that they might not be as strong, but I think that they might run quicker and the transitions will be different. They're used to working with those sort of weights, so the challenge for me, I think, will be my conditioning. Because coming into Strongwoman from CrossFit, my conditioning was incredible. But now, 2 years down the line, and not really doing any. Well, I do some conditioning training, but not like I used to. I think the challenge will be building that engine back up again, so that I can be unstoppable for 60 seconds at a time. And not fumbling anything. I feel like sometimes when it's very light, it's more likely that I'll make a mistake. And I think a lot of people think that I'm doing it because it's going to be easier, but then when you think you've got Shannon Smith in the 64s, you've got Kate Connolly in the 64s, I genuinely don't think it will be at a national level anyway. I don't think it'll be that much easier in terms of there's fucking still incredible girls doing that lineup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought I want to just see how I measure up against women who are my actual size, rather than sort of always chasing to get bigger and bigger. And I'm just never gonna sit at 78 kilos and sort of be able to cut. It's just I've tried, and it's just not gonna happen for me.
Are you going to bring yourself down to 64? Are you going to cut
I
down?
think I'd like to just be sitting at about 66, I think, and then just do a little water cut. But then I've never had to do a water cut to compete either, so it's sort of
They're fun.
yeah, it's just going to be a new learning experience for me. But yeah, I just feel like I spoke to Josh about it yesterday as well, actually, and he said if you had a gun to your head, um, if someone had a gun to your head and they said, do you think you could podium in the 73s or the 64s, which one would you go for? And it's like, well, 64s. Obviously, I think I'd have more of a chance in the 64s. And from watching OSG at the weekend as well, sort of watching. We've just said we hate when people do this, actually. Sort of watching the 64s, watching the final day events with the throwing bags and the stones. I was just because I'm really tall for a 64. I'll be really tall, and obviously I'm good at throwing bags. I'm good at stones. I'm good at that sort of event, and I was sort of thinking, God, like. I think I could have done really well this year at OSG, and sort of seeing that and thinking there's definitely a place for me in that lineup. There is definitely a place for me amongst them women. I'm not saying I could beat them all, but I think that I could definitely be up there. So yeah, and it's just mostly that I'm not getting any younger, and I really want to do Worlds, and I want to be good at Worlds. I want to do it at least once and sort of have a good time of it when I go. I'd hate to go. This year, I really felt like there was a good chance that I might not have made finals as a 73, and I would have hated to fundraise thousands of pounds and then do that. I feel like it's not fair on the people who. I know loads of people do it, and it's probably no one would ever think of me as a disappointment, but I wouldn't be comfortable with knowing that I've taken people's money and then wasted it, is the way that sort of I would see it.
I did the fundraising and I appreciated like everyone, but I hated doing it. I hated it, but there was no other way. And
Yeah,
then I felt disappointed when I messed it up, and
yeah.
I
Because
think
you feel like people have believed in me that
yeah,
I'm, and it's like I feel that I'd feel more confident doing that in a lighter weight category. And
yeah,
there'll be 64s now who are walking around heavier than what I am in any case. So definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. So I think it's just listening to my body, and I wanna do well at a world level. So next year,
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah. Same. I don't think I'd do the fundraising again from people, but yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with some kind of plan because
A lot of people do the raffles, don't they? The raffles seem to work
yeah,
really well.
yeah, yeah. I yeah, I don't want to like we were saying there about saying, oh, I think podium or whatever. I just feel like I've got the ability, if you have a good day, to
Yeah,
be in the top 10. I mean,
yeah,
there's probably about 15, 20 people that could also say the same
yeah,
thing, but
absolutely.
I could be one of them.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I think I'd like to do it as an 80 because I am actually old enough to do masters next year,
yeah,
but I was gonna think at doing that, but then I thought the 80s is so competitive. I feel
yeah,
like I want to be in amongst it
yeah,
with
yeah,
them. If I'm
absolutely.
not good enough, I'm not good enough. I know I'm against the best
Yeah.
in it, like in my opinion, like one of the best classes for the men.
It was so exciting. The under 80s was brilliant this year. It was
Yeah,
brilliant. But
yeah,
again, like I think that on a different day, it could have gone 100% difference. Just everyone, I would agree that probably 20 of the under 80s could have made it to the final.
yeah,
And should have made it to the final. I'm still not 100% convinced on the whole process of doing 4 events and then getting to the final, because what if they're not your best 4 events?
yeah,
It's um. I mean, I understand it's got to work that way, but I just it is a shame for a lot of the people
wasted
who would
events
have really
trained.
shone in those finals and couldn't be there.
Yeah, it's wasted events trained that I didn't like because I practiced it and didn't meet it, and I like sandbags and like decent at sandbags and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe next year.
But you know what'll happen next year? It'll be all your worst events, Joe. it'll
Yeah,
be it'll be all your worst.
yeah, I know that. Well, that's another thing. I'm proper gonna try and work at the events that I've been leaking points
I
at.
also
So
think they did the car yoke this year, so they're probably not going to do it next year. So I need to
I'm,
get in there then.
yeah, yeah, same. I don't mind farmers now, but definitely not yoke.
I'm fucking terrible under a yoke. Terrible.
Same. Luckily, the last three comps I've done, including Worlds, England's, and Europe's, no yoke.
Yeah,
Like,
it's coming. It's got to come.
yeah, but I am using this year to train for that. Right, well, we'll finish up there. So, I just want to thank you for your time,
Oh, you're
Rosie.
welcome. It's been great.
Yeah, and I wish you all the luck with the facility because it is quite new still.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll see you on the circuit.
Yes, you will have a
Yeah.
nice Christmas, Joe.
Yes, and you too. Like I said, if you just hold on after this, and
Yeah.
we'll stop there.